Has Joe Biden's reign as king of the blacks come to an end? And I'm only asking this because, well, the poll numbers are just bad.
All right. So as I mentioned, you are on the National Advisory Board for his reelection campaign. So you're well aware of the polls. The latest Associated Press poll finds 75% of Americans do not want Joe Biden to run for president. That is a higher number than Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump's number is bad. Okay, it's 69%. But Joe Biden's number is worse. More Americans don't want Joe Biden to run than don't want Donald Trump to run. How do you even...
See what I'm saying? And it's just him, and he's running against RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, and the Democrats don't treat them with any respect. It's like he's running against no one. And whenever they talk about him, they always discredit them.
All right, so one final question on RFK Jr., right? He's challenging. And Kennedy has the highest favorability rating of anyone running. Anyone. 46% of any Democrat or Republican. Biden is 43, Trump and Kamala Harris both at 39. And our John King has been doing this amazing report on voters around the country. He's in Iowa. He talked to some Republicans. Here's what they said about RFK Jr.
I think he's a really good guy.
He's the first Democrat I think I've ever listened to and admired what he had to say. There might have been another one that I'm overlooking. But this guy, Kennedy, he sounds like a real genuine individual to me. He's smart, and he's even-minded. He's open-minded, I should say.
Okay. Is RFK a bigger threat to Biden or even to Trump than it appears, right? I mean, this is a very steady poll performance.
The president's going to win the nomination, but I'll say this. Look, I grew up memorizing John F. Kennedy's speeches and Bobby Kennedy's speeches. If someone told me there's a Kennedy in the race, I'd go check the person out too. And he invokes Bobby Kennedy and John F. Kennedy every time in every speech. That's part of the poll numbers. The other thing is he's been talking about some issues like having bases overseas and 800 of them, and that we need to look at whether that's actually justified and not having endless war. Some of those themes strike a chord, but he's adding to the political debate. But I have no doubt that the president is overwhelmingly going to win the primary. The president's going to win in South Carolina. He's going to win in New Hampshire, Nevada, and he's going to be our nominee.
Marianne Williamson will be the first female president, and people act like so. So what? Who cares? They do the same thing to Kamala, which is even worse because she's the vice president, and people are like, don't want Biden, but they don't want Kamala either. Like, her poll numbers are just as bad as Joe Biden's, if not worse. So that's how bad it is. My thing is it really that bad, or is that just CNN? Because, CNN could be a little funny sometimes with the fake news. Maybe it's something going on with them. What about MSNBC? How's it doing, MSNBC? Tell us the real deal.
Has Donald Trump tied with President Joe Biden in a hypothetical 2024 matchup? 43% apiece among registered voters. That tie is due in large part to eroding support for President Biden among some key groups that helped propel him to victory in 2020.
Well, that's bad too. Looks like the black vote went off a cliff. Yeah, it looks like he's not the king of the blacks anymore. 75-59 is 16 points down. He's also down with Latinos even more, but Latinos. He was up 33, now it's 3. That's 30-point drop. It's a drop with young people, about 14 points with young people? From 24 to 10. And he dropped with independents, and this is really bad because independents are the ones who decide elections. 13-5, that's an 8-point slide. So all this talk about Joe Biden being so popular with the blacks, I think it's mostly fabricated. Yeah, ever since Jim Clyburn came out and said this.
Today in South Carolina, Joe Biden got a big boost. The coveted endorsement of the state's most powerful Democrat, Congressman Jim Clyburn.
I know Joe. We know Joe. But most importantly, Joe knows us.
Biden is promising voters a comeback.
I promise you this. If you send me out of South Carolina with a victory, there will be no stopping us.
We ain't heard the end of it. Yeah, every right-wing news organization wants to say that Joe Biden, black people keep voting for Joe Biden, vote for Joe Biden. You know, it was just two people, right? So it was Joe Biden and it was Trump. And Trump is the guy always talking, every time we turn around, Trump is talking about stop and frisk.
ACLU, which ties law enforcement's hands, and to strongly consider stop and frisk. It works, and it was meant for problems like Chicago. It was meant for it. Stop and frisk.
Do people remember this at all? So there really wasn't a viable option if you're a person who didn't want your kids patted down by law enforcement every time they went to the store. Trump was willing to lose black votes. That worked really hard for him. Just hang out with Kanye and he figured he'd make up for the difference. And he did pretty good. I mean, better than Bush. It's always left a bad taste in my mouth when people talked about how much black people liked Joe Biden when I never was fond of Joe Biden. And he never resonated with me. I don't care what he had to say at the pool party about hanging out with Corn Pop or how black kids like playing with his hair on his leg or whatever weird stuff he was saying about working at that pool with black people.
And I'd see and listen to Dr. King and others, but I didn't know any black people. No, I really didn't. You didn't know any white people either. That's the truth. So I wanted to work here. And there's my daughter, Ashley. Come on up here, Ash. And so what I did was I came down and I applied to the city of Wilmington for a job, and I was the only white employee here. And I learned so much. How
he got to know us. He really got to know us. Yeah, it never really resonated for me. What I know about Joe Biden was he liked segregationists, like Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms. He liked him so much when Mitch McConnell gave a speech at Joe Biden's leaving of the Senate, they reminded him how much he was friends with these bigoted, racist segregationists.
He's been able to cultivate many unlikely friendships across the aisle. With Jesse Helms, with Strom Thurmond, with me.
Do you realize how long Strom Thurmond protested on the Senate floor against the Civil Rights Act? He set a record. Said, don't give these black people no rights. That's too far. No. We don't need to end segregation. Let's keep it going the way we got it. I want my kids sitting next to black kids. Next thing you know, we'd be working for them, working with them, going to the bathroom with them. This is all in the documentation. This guy filibustered, AKA staged up, sit-in, protest. And this guy, Jesse Helms, he did the same thing. He almost set a record contesting the Voting Rights Act. No. He contested the Voting Rights Act. No, he almost set a record protesting against Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday. That's what it was. That's right. He didn't want the holiday. Oh, what are you doing with the blacks? We don't need the black holiday. What are you doing? So these are the people that became Joe Biden's friends. Joe Biden's buddies, his pals. So a guy like that is not a guy that I would ever embrace. That's not even counting the crime bills and all the rest of the crap he said out of his mouth in the late 80s, early 90s. Joe Biden was saying racist, horrible remarks all the way against when he ran against Obama. Remember, he was the one who called Obama clean. He said Obama was the first black presidential candidate who was well-spoken and clean, as if all other black people were dirty. So now, I never really felt that Joe Biden was the king of the blacks or anything like that. But this is like a myth that's been made up. Thanks to Jim Clyburn, thanks to certain black people that support him. And now it's filtered out to the people. You know, there are people walking around who actually believe that Joe Biden is, like amazing.
I can't tell anybody who to vote for, but I can tell you who I can vote for. And I'm going to vote for Biden. We need to remember that, the same way we got him in there before, we have to do the same thing by voting.
But I want people to know it's not all the black people, not everybody. No, because first of all, it's really offensive when you say this, white America, so stop saying it. Like, half of black people don't vote. Half of America doesn't vote. Half of black people don't vote. And I'm being generous. It could be more than half, okay? Of the ones that do vote, and the ones that do vote for Democrat, we know we vote like 90% for Democrats. You got to realize, up until this election, and some people for 2016, with Jill Stein, for the most part, there was only two options. Democrats don't really like it, but you know what likes you less? Republicans. And they put some stink on their hate. It's not that black people trust the Democrats. They just trust Republicans less. Sort of like this young lady said here.
I don't look forward to it because I know that the ideal person that I would like to be in office is not going to be in office. So I'm just going to have to pick the lesser evil. And as of right now, that does seem like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
See, Joe Biden is not the king of the blacks. He's not the king of the black vote. He's just a guy who ran, and they put all their resources behind him. You know, Obama did his thing. He called in, he set up the match with Amy Klobuchar and Senator Elizabeth Warren to bounce Bernie out of there, and then you end up with Joe Biden. But it ain't working this time because, you know, it doesn't look like it's really working right now. But you know, Jim Clyburn, he's gonna come out. He's gonna have a fish fry and tell everybody how great Joe Biden is. And that's the reason why I'm really glad that Cornel West is running. Because Cornel West is a viable option. So people need to think, hey, do they want a black guy that really supports black people? Or they want this white guy that pretends to and then hangs out with segregationists and passes crime bills that punish black people disproportionately and lies about it. Lie like a rug. So black people are going to have some choices to make this election about what's important to them. And I'm hoping that people would choose to help the Green Party get to 5%, choose, you know, with something to vote for, not against. Vote for someone, not against someone, and vote for Dr. Cornel West. And when people say Tim Black, but Joe Biden, he's the king of the black vote. I want people to look him in the face and say, hey, it's a new day. Subscribe to this channel and cut on all the notifications because I'll be coming back with more content. King of the blacks. He the king of overpromising, underdelivering, and lying.
But look, Trump and Rudy Giuliani began this campaign to try to tarnish Biden, to try to turn him into the Clinton name, you know, with the obsession over the Ukraine businesses with Hunter, and it's worked. His numbers now look more like Hillary Clinton 16 than Biden 20.
Extra Innings are bonus segments from Tim Black's Black Table Show with the Blacks. That's Tim Black and the amazing Mrs. Black. For early access to Extra Innings, become a paid member of the Tim Black Show at jointimblack.com. Ain't nothing like the real thing. Baby, join today. See you there, Wolfpack.